In this video, I want to look at the functionality in SolidEdge called Family of Parts. Family of Parts is similar to SolidWorks Configurations, except that configurations are for both parts and assemblies, and are all stored in a single file. Family of Parts is just for parts, and the family members are saved out to individual files. This is an inherently more stable process than the SolidWorks method of doing configurations all in a single file. You will probably find that SolidEdge runs with fewer crashes using Family of Parts than SolidWorks does using configurations. Let's take a look at how this works. The Family of Parts pane is available from the Pathfinder or from the Quick Access toolbar. Synchronous and ordered family of parts can control different things. In ordered, you can suppress and unsuppress features, change values of variables or dimensions, and include or exclude bodies. The interface calls these elements. Synchronous enables you to control design intent options on or off, face relations on or off, and bodies or elements can be also included in the family member, as well as variables or dimensions. The way to get started with the family of parts is to create a new family member. We'll call this Cylinder 1. In Cylinder 1, we're going to suppress these two features, the hole and the pattern. Select those two and press the Suppress button. We also want to control a dimension. To access a dimension, double-click on a feature. If you single-click on a dimension, you can change its value. If you double-click on a dimension, you can change its name or write a formula. If you right-click on a dimension, you can show it in one of three states. Show all values is the default setting. Show all names will replace the values with the dimension name. And show all formulas will show both the name and the formula. Rename this dimension to cylinder length. Separately, I've driven other values parametrically. For example, on this end, the width is 10 millimeters greater than the diameter. And also the placement for the second end is based on the length of the cylinder. So the ends get further apart the longer the cylinder is, and the ends get larger the larger the cylinder diameter is. In SolidWorks configurations, when you start getting more than a couple of elements being driven, it's a good idea to create a table which keeps all of your information organized. It's the same thing here in SolidEdge. The table here has our first family member name. It also has all of the feature names and all of the dimension names that we are changing. We can add some additional family members here. We'll add Cylinder 2 and creatively Cylinder 3 because the family of parts separates the family members into individual files. We have a path set here for each family member. Family members don't need to be in the same folder as the master file, but in this case, that's the way I have it set up, and that's probably the best way to do it. We can also control the suppression state for various features. So the hole in the pattern will be suppressed in two family members and unsuppressed in one family member. Also, we'll make these values change with the different family members. So the diameter for Cylinder 2 will be 55 and the length will be 175. Diameter for Cylinder 3 will be 60 and the length will be 200. Finally, I've added a washer as a separate body to the master model, and I want to use this in one of the family of parts, so I'll go into the table in the area for bodies and make sure that the washer body is enabled for the largest family member and disabled for the other two. There is also a list of family of parts options that can be included in the family members. These include things like flat pattern, simplified versions, coordinate systems, reference planes, and sketches. You can also control face style overrides between the master file and the family members. When you've got everything set up and you're ready to create the parts, there's a little process that you need to go through. Select all of the family members. Make sure that you've set the path. In this case, it's already set, and then populate the members. This will use the part copy functionality to save out versions of the master file to family member files. Solid Edge gives us a couple of warnings about saving the file and the number of family members selected, and then saves the files out. And before we close the table, we can use the right mouse button menu down to the members selection to open all of the selected members. And this will automatically close the table. You can switch between the open documents by using Control-Tab on the keyboard or by selecting the tabs for the individual document at the top of the screen. Now we can have a look and cycle through with the Control-Tab to get some measurements and make sure we're getting the right dimensions. Go to Inspect, Measure, and select the cylindrical face diameter. It should be 50 millimeters for the cylinder 1, and we move to cylinder 2, and the diameter is 55. And we're getting the proper dimensions. Notice also that the holes are shown in cylinder 2, but not in cylinder 1 or 3. You can add additional features to the family members, but it is recommended that any edits that you make, you may want to share between family members, and those edits should go in the master file rather than in the individual family members. For example, if I make fillets on this face of the cylinder 1 family member, those fillets cannot be transferred to any of the other family members. But if I flip to the master and I create a set of fillets on this face, then I can go to the family of parts table. This round is here, and we can suppress the round in one of the family members and leave it there for the other two. Then we have to go through and update all of the family members. You select all members and then populate and say OK. Now if we flip to cylinder 1 has the fillet on there as part of the part copy. If we flip to cylinder 2 also has the fillet, but only because the round has been added specifically to that family member, and we can remove that now from the individual part. If we move to cylinder 3, again, this will have the fillet. All of these parts are showing up in a directory along with master, cylinder 1, cylinder 2, and cylinder 3. When you go to make an assembly or a drawing, it's recommended that you use the family members rather than using the master directly. You can place these parts in an assembly using the normal Insert Component tool. If you try to place a master part, Solid Edge will warn you that this is not recommended. If you still do it, you can use Replace Part to replace it with a family member. Placing a family member directly into the assembly is done just as you would normally place a component using the Insert Component tool. But you'll need to use the Parts library to browse to the location that you established when creating the family in the first place. To create a drawing from a family member, again, use the normal method of creating a drawing of the active model. Thanks for watching.